Minion in. Let's talk about open world PvP, because it's a point of conflict, no pun intended, for many of us, both PvE and PvP lovers alike. It's time I once again put on my dev hat and give you my unsolicited opinion.
Come for the game, stay for the commentary.
Ain't nothing but a seat then, baby.
Open world PvP. The pure PvEers hate it. Getting attacked and or PK'd is a negative experience. It can really take the fun out of playing, and it takes a little while to recover from being angry before you start having fun again. By the way, less channels means less safety for people trying to avoid PvP. Just wanted to throw that out there, Patrick. The PvP fans don't get that, and why should they? This isn't Bless of Friends! You may get that reference, you may not. These two camps not getting along isn't a new thing. But in our case, it's something that could have been prevented and can still be set right. Let me start with how this all happened. Bless Unleashed was designed and created purely as a PvE game. That's it. There was no open world PvP at its conception. At some later stage, designers were sitting around a table thinking, we want higher level areas to feel more dangerous. What can we do to give our players a heightened sense of anxiety? And someone at the table put up their hand and said, why don't we make those areas open world PvP? And the rest of the table said, fuck it, let's do it. Open world PvP was an afterthought, a late stage design feature which plays a part in why it feels so foreign to both the people who are only here for the AI interaction and story and the people who are here to kill other people. It's part of why being suddenly attacked by another player feels so jarring and instantly breaks game immersion. And as a game designer, I can tell you, game immersion is incredibly important. Open world PvP in Bless Unleashed feels unnatural. When it happens, you're no longer your character interacting with a fantasy world. You are suddenly yourself again, sitting there staring at a screen in a real world where another human being is picking on you and you don't understand why this is happening. In this way, open world PvP is damaging to that camp of players. PvP lovers also weren't treated fairly. When Bless Unleashed was released, it was advertised as an open world PvP game, which was a little misleading. That aspect of Bless Unleashed was a forefront feature used to draw in new players. When PvPers came in, they felt the system was incomplete, and only naturally so because it wasn't part of the original concept and not near enough thought was put into its creation. For example, there aren't any real open world PvP objectives. Okay, there's corrupted nodes, but those are only passably enjoyable because not too many people know about them yet. Once more of the community understands how they work, those rare occurrences are going to become ridiculously crowded and not fun for anyone anymore. Because of this lack of open world PvP content, rare finds like smugglers and rare spawns are now the makeshift open world PvP objectives. PvEers generally avoid rare spawns and smugglers because going near them means being PK'd. What that means in the end is that only PvPers get the good stuff, and that makes PvEers feel incredibly disadvantaged, and for good reason. Not just because they feel a very cool part of the game is being denied them, but also because they feel that the same people who have been making their experience less enjoyable by PKing them in Tristeza when they were just trying to kill a field boss are being rewarded with exclusive content. It feels personal. Bless Unleashed is on the fence. Are we a PvE game with some PvP content, or are we a PvP game with some PvE content? The game is very clearly confused about this, and as a byproduct, so are we. Nobody is happy with the current situation. But I don't just point out problems, I also suggest solutions. So here goes. To put it simply, Lumios needs a Cyrodiil. I'm not saying just take an idea from another MMO, but hey, if it's a good one, use it and make it your own. That's kind of a big part of game design, you guys. Playing other successful games and using ideas that work. And Cyrodiil definitely works. Bless Unleashed needs a separate massive section of the map that is pure open world PvP. A place that when you go there, it is clear that you willingly opt in to an open world PvP experience. There is no confusion, there is no break of immersion. It gives Bless Unleashed the clarity that it so desperately needs. As a fan of the lore of the game, I suggest using Lilianthir, the world tree that gave the elves immortality before it was set to eternal fire during the breaking. A giant burning tree in the center of the world map would definitely give it the proper atmosphere. Put up 4 camps in the corners of the map. The Sen, who are there to protect and harvest prana for the good of the Federation. The Vaselan, who are there to clear the world of prana to prevent another world tree disaster. And new factions. The Vasvenir, a rogue faction of elves and Varg, who believe they can save the world tree by using prana, in essence fighting fire with fire, and they want to keep the Sen and Vaselan from getting their hands on it at any cost. The elves in the Vasvenir believe they can use prana to put out the world tree fire, which would restore immortality to the elven race. The Varg among them believe that if the elves can stop the world tree from burning, it might quell the rage that has plagued the Varg race ever since the breaking. And finally, the Coalition, a primarily human gathering of merchant houses and mercenaries who are there for profit and glory, harvesting prana and selling it to the highest bidder. A player entering Lilianthir chooses to side with one of these 4 factions and receives objectives to complete on the map for them. Those objectives could have a wide range, from killing other players to securing and harvesting prana deposits across the map. The map could also be littered with small settlements of elves and Varg that are only caught up in the Prana War by their location, and could have further quests and objectives available to players of all factions. Similar to Red Basin, securing and holding a prana deposit earns your faction prana points over time, only there's no limit to how much prana a faction can have. At the end of the week, maybe at server maintenance for example, the faction with the most prana wins, and players who sided with that faction get the most rewards. When you join the battle, the faction you choose is the one you're locked in with until the battle week ends. You might even consider assigning a random faction to players joining in. That way, big guilds can't stack the Prana War in their favor, kind of how it should be in Red Basin. Just something to think about. Make the rest of the world PvE only, and move corrupted nodes to the PvP map. But be sure to give everyone plenty of incentive to enter Lilianthir. Offer participation rewards that can't be obtained anywhere else, and I guarantee you, even hardcore PvE players will venture into Lilianthir, fully expecting a PvP experience so there's no break of immersion when it happens. And most of all, this kind of experience will draw in a whole new batch of players excited to participate in open world PvP warfare, giving Bless Unleashed the influx of new blood it obviously needs. Hell, when the time comes, maybe you can even give us back channels 3 and 4. Everybody wins! And for making players feel a sense of anxiety in dangerous areas, which was the reason you added open world PvP in the first place, allow me to introduce you to the Prana Stalker. This monstrous badass spawns from the roots of the chaos-infested world tree, which makes him part of the same storyline and explains his presence and why fighters from all over Lumios are responding to a new threat at Lilianthir. The Prana Stalker is an invisible hunter that preys on adventurers in the open world. Players never know when this random encounter is going to happen, forcing us to always keep our heads on a swivel from Tristeza onwards. When he appears, the air around the player flashes, and the Prana Stalker leaps out of thin air to attack. This could happen any time while the player is mounted and traveling alone, or in the middle of a regional or field boss fight. That extra element of unseen danger should have exactly the effect you were originally going for. Give the Prana Stalker some fear-inspiring, evil-looking, dark shadow mount thing that he chases you down the road with if he catches you while you're mounted, and when you beat him, there's a chance you get that mount as a drop. Make him fear-inspiring, but also awesome. I know this is a big ask, and it would be a big project. But if you think about it, all the mechanics are already there. Most of this is graphic assets work, and I bet that there are more Bless Online assets you could recycle to make this happen. Anyway, that's my suggestion for your consideration. I do hope you keep an eye on how the community responds to this idea. And to my fellow players, if you would like to see something like this happen as much as I do, then show it. Support this video, retweet it, link it, upvote it, share it. Follow me on Twitter, by the way, it's down there. Tag it Bless Unleashed when you retweet it so they see it. Because the devs are listening. We just have to speak up. Bless Unleashed needs more world, more story depth, more clearly defined PvP. Whether you decide to use this idea or adapt it or not, I hope you continue being freaking heroes. Minion out.